Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's episode of Emerging Voices and Emerging Crypto.io podcast, where we will be segmenting Web3 thought leaders in emerging markets. I'm your host, John Lira, founder of Emerging Crypto.io, your single go-to source for Web3 news in emerging markets. Today, we will be speaking with Sasha Antropov, founder of United Humanitarian Front, based in Ukraine. If you want to learn more about United Humanitarian Front and how they're supporting the Ukrainian military, volunteers, other nonprofit organizations, and Ukrainians affected by the war, you may go to uhf.fund. Sasha, thank you for joining and welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thanks for hosting me here. Excited.
Sasha, for the uninitiated, what is United Humanitarian Front?
It's an NGO based out of Ukraine that I funded and started at the beginning of March. As soon as I had my head around, after being deep inside and already busy with volunteering, I quickly realized that the whole volunteering part, it's fulfilling. It is something that the only thing that we could do back then, but I quickly realized that just volunteering is not going to change anything. So we're sitting and working, trying to help as many people as we could with any request for, I don't know, 15, 16 hours a day. And then I realized that it's ineffective. So I went on and registered as an NGO in Ukraine and started gathering forces, uniting other teams and then getting other people to join us and structuring everything with a very business-alike approach, where it's not just a bunch of volunteers that are running around and helping. There's business processes, procedures, criteria for making decisions, etc. So United Humanitarian Front is a fund, is an NGO that, again, was started in March. Since then, we went on a crazy journey. I would compare it this last 6 or 8 months. It's been like a life cycle of any startup of maybe 4 or 5 years. We did the multiple pivots, restructured the team, changed procedures, and fast forward, that's where we are, knowing what's best to do or how to do it, and that's the level of competence that we gained through that process of seeing what works, what not. In business terms, I would call it finding product market fit, but I would say it might sound a bit lame in terms of volunteering, because any help could find its recipient, of course. But if we really want to change things for better, we need to, as I believe, that we need to focus on long-term implications and trying to change things in a very systematic manner. So the work that we do could affect not just our circle, but could affect, affected people on a scale of a country.
In addition to leading United Humanitarian Front on your LinkedIn, you're also involved with a number of other projects, including Purify, Chain Adoption, and Casper Labs, to name a few. For our viewers who may not be familiar with these projects, what are they? What are you doing for them? And what is your professional background?
Yeah, good. UHF took the major part of my time and energy as one of the is actually not one of them, as the only thing that back then provided motivation, understanding that that's really the right thing to do. Now, fast forward 8 months, fast forward, I'm back to work trying to combine and find time for other projects where I'm involved or was involved before the war started. My background is in IT, software development, but on a sales and business development side. So I was leading a software development house out of Ukraine, helped scale it from 5 to 75 developers, then exited, and that work also meant that I was visiting most of the major blockchain conferences around the world for 6 years. That helped me form my professional network through that. And when I decided that I needed a change, having the knowledge and a network, a reputation, I dived into DeFi space. And that's how it all became super interesting. Past 10 months, except of the first 6 months of the war, I was working with one of my business partners on 2 investment, I would say, products and 2 investment companies. So I'm partner at Hillman Ventures and Hillman Capital. It's 2 different investment products for 2 different target markets. Hillman Capital is a Swiss entity for qualified investors, but newbies that want to have a position in the blockchain space. We simply onboard. We're simply onboarding them through our terminal and allow them perform trades through our copy trading software with signals and through our traders as well as bots to take mid and long-term positions in liquid blue chip coins. Hillman Ventures is more of a closed investment club where we provide access to deal flow, vetted early stage projects on one side, and on the other side for projects we advise, consult them, getting them ready, gearing them up for the big game. Purify is a great project, a bit too early for the market, where I did my best to bring investors and the entire blockchain network that I have for partnerships. I'm still an advisor to Casper Labs and Shisha Finance, and I work very, very closely with chain adoption, where I'm a partner as well. I can quickly stop on explaining what Casper Labs and Shisha Finance and chain adoption do if we have time for this.
Very good. And later on in the program, we'll also spend more time talking about the UHF and how it's supporting Ukraine during the ongoing war. Let's first talk about the blockchain and cryptocurrency market in Eastern Europe. Chainalysis has ranked Ukraine 3rd and Russia 9th in the top 20 countries for crypto adoption in its Global Crypto Adoption Index for 2022. Ukraine and generally Eastern Europe is considered a region abundant with tech talent and where companies look to offshore or hire remote tech workers. Sasha, what is the blockchain and crypto ecosystem like in Eastern Europe? Who are some of the innovative projects? You've just mentioned a few that we should be watching, and what are they doing?
Sure. That's actually a very good question. I like talking about the ecosystem in Ukraine. So we got world-class, reputable service providers and startups. The beauty of being in Ukraine, leveraging very strong math school historically, even since USSR, that resulted in good engineers, good mathematicians. So that's a little bit of a background or a foundation. Right now, Ukraine, I would say it's an established market with the names like Kuna, Whitebit, Hacken, Distributed Labs, Boosty Labs, Global Ledger, Bridge, zk-Sync, AML Bot, Purify, Exxon, Unstoppable Domains, Near, Trusty, Olderly, Tributor, and I can pretty much go on for a few more minutes. Those names are just a few. Most of them are either service providers, very reputable ones, or layer 1, layer 2 projects. And more to that is that even if the project is not out of Ukraine, most of the layer 1s and layer 2s out there are built with Ukrainian talent. So the real list goes really far beyond those names. But the ecosystem is very, I wouldn't say it's very large, but I would say it's maturing. We've already went through a number of cycles where we clearly saw, a different hype topics, spinning up a lot of projects. Some of them are surviving the bear market cycles. Some of them survived like a number of bear market cycles and became really strong projects. And we've also seen projects that came there for wrong reasons, that didn't stay for long, and it's great that the roots from Ukrainian, I would say, tech engineers and developers are now very spread out around the world. And we, as I said, we see a lot of good, strong projects, exchanges, service providers, software developers, software development houses. Products are being spinned up out of here, as well as the hardware development and other deep tech participants as well in the space.
In the recently released chain analysis report, Eastern Europe is the 5th largest market and represents 10% of the global crypto value received. How should we interpret this, and why is it important?
It's a good question. I think, well, I would rather stay away from commenting on entire Eastern Europe. However, in my view, after the collapse of USSR, in all newly formed countries, it was like Wild West. That plus corruption created the habit of avoiding taxes through crypto or moving capital cross borders. I think that really spinned off early use cases where, if you remember, crypto was associated with illicit activity, with Silk Road, etc., etc., etc. So I think people who had access to that technology back then realized, what are the quick and, in most cases, not good implications it could bring. But in Ukraine, due to very large deep tech and IT sector historically, and being well known for outsourced software development in general, all those participants, people who've been early in the IT space, pretty much became pioneers of crypto here, hodlers, founders, evangelists, as well as scammers, unfortunately, some of them. So the industry is quite big and I could say pretty old. Government, we have right now started emphasizing digitalization in all domains. We have super app DIA, it's e-government, and it's really one of a kind. We do have neobanks, which are super strong fintech players, even on a global scale. And we did really well in the past 4 or 5 years on this front. As well as crypto itself became legal finally. So all those aspects, the tech-savvy background, mass adoption in general makes our country, even though we are right now, unfortunately, at the full-scale war, we're on the forefront of not just democracy, but also digitalization. I think I went a bit beyond just answering your question.
No, it was great. It actually covered some questions I wanted to ask next. So everything's segueing nicely. Chain Analysis reports that risky and illicit activity is still prominent in Eastern Europe, especially in Russia for ransomware and money laundering. In fact, they cite 18.2% of all cryptocurrency received by Eastern Europe comes from addresses associated with risky or illicit activity more than any other region. Sasha, why do you think this is such a pervasive problem in the region relative to other parts of the world?
I think that it's a good question. I think answering this question, I can go back to something that I said previously. The problem, I think, is corruption, tax evasion habits of the past 30 years or even more. Considering the rotten nature of the whole USSR communism. Now another reason is war. Our enemy is using crypto to fund terrorism. Russians are using crypto to take assets out of the country to UAE, for example, or other friendly places. And I think just not to be not to bet everything on that particular point of corruption. I think you take that, you multiply that by the amount of engineers and developers, and multiply by by the fact that it's really Wild West here, or at least it was. So I think that those three components together resulting into the statistic that you just mentioned, that is not really something that I would be very proud of. But on the contrary, I'm more proud of the fact that Ukraine is considered to be top 3 or top 5 countries in IT software development, like outsourced software development in Europe. In terms of quality, that is something that excites me more than understanding that that the statistics plays against us when people talk about the usage of cryptocurrencies here in this region.
Moving on to regulatory development, perhaps out of necessity, both Ukraine and Russia are leading Eastern Europe in crypto regulatory framework development since the start of the war, but for very different reasons. For viewers that haven't been following, what have been the crypto regulatory developments in Ukraine and Russia since the start of the war? And from what you're hearing locally, what is the latest on crypto regulation in Ukraine and Russia?
Well, very simple. In Ukraine, it became legal. It's been in works for the past few years. The whole community has been waiting for it to become the reality, and it finally happened. We are still waiting for taxation system to adjust, and still the regulation is close to being final, but is not yet reached the final point where you can go and being a retail business to start using crypto as a alternative mean of payment, as well as similar to fiat. It's already happening in some of the visionary, I would say, founders behind some of the retail businesses. but is not yet fully widely adopted. However, in the past 8 months, things are getting close to final and a working system. In Russia, well, it's been a shit show for past years, to be honest. I don't know if I can say things like that on the video, but it is for past years. It's announcing that crypto will be regulated, then forbidden, then back again, that it's going to be allowed some sort of activities, till now. Finally, during war, if I remember correctly, they made it illegal again, fully illegal status. Of course, cryptocurrencies acted as a mean of taking capital and assets out of the country. It wasn't long that it would become obvious, and in Russia it would become illegal because the money was pretty much flowing out of the country. Anyway, to be honest with you, I don't really care what's the situation or status there is really. I don't know. This question, I take it a bit, not personally, but emotionally, being Ukrainian, being in Ukraine. So honestly, what's going on in Russia with crypto is only something I hear. I don't research because that's really least of my concerns. Sorry for being straightforward.
No problem. You said that in Ukraine, it's cryptocurrency is legal. Just to be clear, do you mean legal tender in par with this national currency, or legal for payments?
It's
How
legal
is it
for
classified?
payments.
I see. Let's talk about crypto's role in the war in Ukraine. It's been playing an important role for both Ukraine and Russia, but in different ways. And your NGO, United Humanitarian Front, is also supporting Ukrainians during this time. How have cryptocurrencies benefit both Ukraine and Russia during the war? How has it been used on each side?
Well, for us, for my case particularly, crypto is a perfect tool to gather donations without borders. And I'm very proud that our industry donated hundreds of millions of dollars in crypto to organizations across Ukraine, both independent and run by the government. To make it simple, I can't underestimate the importance. To make it simple, sorry, I just had a interruption. I can't underestimate, that's what I was saying. I can't underestimate the importance of crypto donations from all over the world helping us win. We used crypto for everything good it provides. And one so-called brother nation across the border used it for everything bad and evil. So in simple and lame terms. So we basically, for us, crypto, being an expert in the space for a good number of years, my network is IT and blockchain professionals, projects, service providers, experts, investors. So for me, it was a no-brainer that I would obviously utilize my network, and turned out that crypto projects, ecosystems, layer ones, layer twos, startups, or really well-funded businesses, everyone was donating as much as they could, and some of them are still doing so. But right now, I think what's changed is that it's again, it's month 8 of the war. Donations and the whole process of raising funds for that cause became very, very difficult. There's war fatigue. There are other reasons for that as well. And I see only businesses and companies who are operationally profitable or have some sort of ties with Ukraine on a personal or in a strategic level are continuing to support and to donate. And again, as I mentioned, so crypto for as a payment tool, as an alternative form of money, in our situation showed really, really well how it really eliminates, the need for cross-border payments. It also, since it's really widely adopted already in Ukraine, it's recognized by the most of the exchanges and operators here in Ukraine locally. So for me, it's almost like frictionless when I use either local currency or I use crypto. It's just a few clicks away. I can convert it and I can pay anything I need. So it was a perfect tool for us. And of course, that also proves, the point is also proved by the fact that, the office of the president of Ukraine has launched an initiative like U24, United 24, with, global brand ambassadors ranging from local celebrities to Hollywood stars. But again, it's every initiative that you see, any NGO, any fund, you always see that, the adoption is here because everyone, as a mean of donation, there was only like fiat or a selection of a hryvnia, which is a local currency, or a euro or a dollar. Now the focus shifted towards cryptocurrencies. Now everyone knows what's USDT, or what's the difference between USDT on ERC20 or TRC20. So that's becoming really widely adopted here, which is definitely a positive fact. And as I said, so for us, it showed all the benefits. And in terms of Russia, it showed all the negative sides of using crypto for the entire world. Money laundering, funding, terrorism activity, illicit activity, avoiding taxes, and pretty much the list can go on.
What are some of the things your NGO, United Humanitarian Front, is doing to support Ukrainian military, volunteers, NGOs, and Ukrainian people affected by the war?
It's a very complex question. I think I need to provide a bit of a wide context and a story of our evolution in the past 8 months. So I mentioned to you briefly, like as a joke, that this 8 month been pretty much like a life cycle of a startup, maybe 3, maybe 5 years, with a number of pivots, with the changes in the operational structure, organizational structure, etc. So since the 24th of February and until the first week of March, when I officially registered the NGO, I have been spending my personal money, have been spending, trying to gather donations through my circle, our business partners, friends. Nobody, to be honest with you, counted how much we spent in those weeks, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, maybe 50, maybe 100K. And I'm not saying this about me. This, to be honest with you, is really was the case with everyone. Back then, we were helping with the most immediate problems and needs of the people, being, just being shocked and traumatized with the scale of the war, by having one role of not spending money on weaponry and lethal stuff. And by the way, we still hold to that role. The focus back then was on evacuation, food, medicine, and of course, helping our boys, our ladies and boys, our soldiers on the front. When the evacuation became less of a problem domestically, as most of the people who could potentially leave the country or relocate to the safer place did that, we stopped this activity internally and shifted our focus towards humanitarian cargo for deoccupied regions. So pretty much sending food, personal hygiene elements, food packs for people to last for days or weeks to the cities, and then actually in most cases towns and villages in the regions far away from the capital, from the city center, from the city center, from the center of Ukraine, sorry. And that was something that, allowing people to survive. So that was extremely, extremely important. As soon as I started, as soon as I managed to get significant funding, we started spending most on helping military with non-lethal equipment. So it's uniforms, protective equipment like helmets and vests, equipment that would make our soldiers on a war front perform their duties more effectively than the enemy. Those are thermal visors, drones for surveillance, cars to get the ammunition in and out, or evacuation ambulances, etc. After that, we realized that humanitarian cargo is imported from partners or volunteers, countries or institutional partners from all over the globe. And it was already obvious that it was like thousands of other NGOs or volunteers are just focusing on one thing, and they do it well, just working with humanitarian cargo, having very well-structured supply chain channels here domestically and getting it across the border here in Ukraine. So this is when we realized that we need to be basically stop focusing on humanitarian cargo, and shifted our focus on helping other volunteers perform their work effectively. And we were doing so by literally, like, we had a team of coordinators that would helping other volunteers in different Telegram groups or on the phone calls, utilizing our expertise, trusted contacts, and pretty much by that we felt that if we're utilizing our know-how and our expertise and pass it on through the wide range of other volunteers, then their work is going to be more effective, and by that they could help more people. That's how we basically were helping other volunteers, but still we were running military procurement, and back then on a very significant scale, I would say like 200,000-300,000 US per month. Next step of our evolution, or another internal pivot is when we realize that we want to focus on the long-term implications, and that's very important. Long-term implications from our help rather than short-term aid. This is when we started measuring impact that we are creating through our work. That's how we got rid of all the activities with low impact and started analyzing problems of civilians and soldiers and military to work on the solutions, to try and work on the solutions that could solve those, that not locally, but rather systematically. So where we are right now is military procurement is still something we do actively, helping cater or cover 10 to 15 official inquiries from the military units. And by the way, one more point is that almost immediately we realized, as soon as we opened the NGO, that we should focus on getting the group inquiries from the military unit rather than focus on, you know, peer-to-peer, or I would say on an individual level, helping, you know, a certain person. We would tell people to go back to their commander and form an official inquiry, and we'll try to cover it. And I think through this entire time, I think we covered maybe 70 large inquiries, resulting in pretty much like, I don't know, 10, 15,000 soldiers that received help from us. Anyway, so what I was saying, where we are right now, we still run the military procurement, but we decided to focus on things that are of an immediate need right now. What we have now, winter, right? Winter is coming, it's getting cold, people are in trenches, and we need to do everything we can to keep our boys and girls on the front warm, through kits, through as well providing them the means to have a decent food while they're performing their duties. Then touching on how they're performing their duties is important. The drones is of an essence. Cars as well that could be used for evacuation, but also bringing in and out the ammunition, which is logistics is the most important aspect of the war these days. Keeping our boys and girls warm and productive. However, now, if we're talking about, if we, you know, shift the focus away from the military procurement, and this is where I really like the topic, this is where I really like what we do right now. The focus is shifted kind of naturally through, again, understanding the part which I mentioned before, impact. The focus shifted more on grants, on providing grants for other organizations, either, you know, founders or other NGOs. Through this initiative, we allocated 100,000 towards rebuilding destroyed houses and building a number of new ones for the affected people, as a mean of helping those people, and as much as utilizing as much resources as we could back then on getting people prepared for the winter. Next grant we will be allocating, most probably will be towards taking the problem that there is on the front, which is surveillance and drones, and the need of constantly having more skilled drone operators. So we will be getting we'll be awarding one of the existing schools a grant for scaling, so they could train more people on a monthly and weekly basis, and by that and by that save lives of their peer soldiers. So if they perform their duties better, we believe that by that we can be affecting the lives of their soldiers or their peers around them. Impact here is measurable, and this is what is important. To end the long answer here, I always try to keep my team and the focus of our work as agile as possible. Measurable impact is an important criteria for us. Yeah, very important criteria, without say the least. Next topic we want to address is social adaptation for both civilians and military and soldiers. We need to tackle the problem of reintegration of people back to the society when we're talking about, you know, civilians. They're lost their families, or lost their homes, or if we're talking about demilitarized soldiers, amputees, yeah, people who cannot perform their duties anymore. We need to somehow touch on this problem as well, and help them understand that what they can do with their life further on. This will cover EdTech solutions, courses, business-oriented courses, potentially hardware developments as well, if we're talking about amputees and prostheses. So yeah, I think that was a bit too long, but I tried to cover most of the roadmap, I would say, or our evolution.
Thank you. That was a really interesting history for such a short period of time. It's incredible what you and the team has done. And there are a number of people on the team with you running the UHF. Who are some of the team members that make up the core UHF team?
There's people that I met through my life, being in Ukraine and being deeply involved into the volunteering space since basically the beginning of March. Alex Nikitin is one of my co-founders. He has experience in Miltech, and basically he's very systematic, and that's what clicked. That systematic approach is something that really, I think, is key, and what other organizations lack. Ilias is a longtime friend of mine that is very deeply connected with local entities here in Ukraine, and as well as governmental entities. So we are able to understand whether a screening of how trustworthy is the person needs to take place. And that's really helpful. All that combined in measurable impact, I think we've basically managed to raise over a little over $1 million, maybe 1.3, maybe getting close to $1.5 million. I mean, in a global scale, it's peanuts. On a scale of impact, how much this money could be utilized in a way that creates the most impact, that's tremendous. We see a lot of large institutional donors, partners of Ukraine, are providing hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's just being thrown into the, you know, the overall pot, and that's never enough. It's very difficult to measure how this money is utilized, how effectively. I'm not talking about corruption. I'm talking about using that money to change people's lives. And this is why I felt that, you know, we need to be really conscious about that particular fact. And that's why I created UHF, because I realized big funds, they like this, touch on the ground, and we see the problems here faster in a more agile way. So I think.
Go ahead.
No, that was the last point I wanted to say on that part.
Let's talk about the war's impact on Ukraine and its people. How has the war impacted you and your family personally, Sasha?
Well, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm very fortunate that that we've managed to, get to a safe and peaceful place in the west of Ukraine, as soon as 24th, 25th of February. I could say I'm very fortunate because I anticipated this, and I was preparing for war, both in terms of, financially and on a family level since the end of December. So, when 24th of February, we were prepared. Yeah, we didn't have the bags like all packed and everything, but we knew what we need to do, and basically that changed a lot of that eliminated a lot of problems that most of the people have. Also, I knew that the war could happen any moment, and I was telling this to my family, to my fiance, to my business partners. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm not here to say that, I told them so, but nobody listened to me. And I realized that, well, I cannot drag them away from Ukraine by force. So I took the decision to stay in Ukraine, no matter what happens, and prepare myself to relocate and to live an okay and comfortable life, and be productive, to be an asset for helping other people, and still somehow do continue doing what I was doing before the war. In reality, that was very, very difficult, because for the 6 months I couldn't think of, going back to work. I didn't have motivation, didn't want any didn't have any motivation and energy to go back to money making businesses, to that where I was, and I'm still involved before the war. So the effect, how it affected us tremendously, I would say. It's a life-changing black swan event that some people could prepare. Other people were blindfolded and thinking that normal, in our normal world, that this could never be the reality. And here we are. The most, I would say, the worst case predictions are pretty much happening. And I was in a situation with Russia. I was always preparing for the worst case scenario. That didn't got me off guard. In terms of how it affected, well, again, luckily, on a physical level, my family is safe because I kind of dragged them out of Kiev. The whole life is totally twisted head to toes, flipped, sorry, head to toes. So it's, people relocated, millions of people relocated, lost their jobs. We have electricity shortages. The prices went, basically the inflation did 3x. The prices of gas, salaries, or I don't know, I doubt that the salaries did 3x for regular people. And So for me, again, because I was preparing myself for this, and I had a very conscious understanding of what's coming, I could prepare. Unfortunately, millions of people didn't do so, and hence, you know, hopefully there will be more people. No, I'll rephrase that. Hopefully, more people could find the energy to continue volunteering and helping, because this is not going to be a quick one, definitely. It's rather marathon than a sprint. And this is why we're doing what we're doing, because honestly, when between comparing the situation now in 2014, if we forget about the war and millions of people left the country to try and live their life out there, and if we forget, we'll have the same scenario, the same situation. And in 2014, people went back to normal and continued their lives, and here we are, like full-scale war. I feel that the key, the Ukraine is already united around the, you know, helping each other as much as they could. I think that all businesses, all Ukrainians, no matter how much time or how much money they spend on this cause, they should keep on doing it. And yeah, go on.
Western media is reporting grave atrocities that are being committed by the Russian military, as well as the grit and strength by the Ukrainians to defend what is yours. From your perspective, as far as you know, what isn't being reported to Western audiences that people should know about?
That's a good question. I wasn't preparing for it, to be honest with you. Let me think really quickly. What is not being recorded? What is not being reported in Western media? I think Western media and the perception at on the West is that still people somehow think that there are two sides of a story. That there are, you know, they need to be somehow evaluating, you know, both the sides of a story and trying to find, you know, a common ground. What is obvious for any Ukrainian here or outside of Ukraine, that there is no potential common ground with a terrorist state that is doing pure genocide in Ukraine. What you might not see as you, not you, but as broad meaning of you as West, is the agenda that we constantly see being utilized against us. False flag attacks, nuclear threats, all the false elections and referendums. It is all very, very obvious and super dumb, the way how, you know, within the isolated environment, any information that is just fed there could be manipulated to the fact that you won't recognize what you know, the tie with the original source. So I think the manipulation of the information within Russia is something that people don't understand. Why is it keep on happening? Because they need to be creating some sort of the, you know, justification that in Ukraine we have some sort of neo-Nazis running the country, or really trying to kill everything related to Russia. To be honest with you, I mean, my fiance is from Belarus. I was raised in a Russian-speaking family, But now what they did is, what this war did is that now everything Russian is, I don't know, is a no-go. People are shifting from Russian language, people cutting off ties with Russia. So basically, everything that they saying that we are doing is happening as a result of this invasion. So what Western media or what Western people don't fully understand is deep is how deep this genocide goes in the Russian roots. They try to rewrite the whole history for the past, I don't know, well, 100 years of since the Russian Empire, saying that Ukraine was a byproduct of Lenin's imagination, erasing the whole, history of 600 years ago. So anyway, long story short, I don't know. I don't have a clear answer for that. I think the whole situation is very binary. I don't know how to say it in English. We have only binary option. Either we hold on and continue kicking their asses out of our country within the borders of 1991, which is including all the annexed territories, not newly annexed, but all annexed territories. If we don't do that, then for those who say that peace is possible, this is bullshit. I'm sorry. For those who think that this is possible, I'll tell them that we can do a peace agreement on paper. That would mean that we just prolong the war from our generation to the generation of our kids, because that's going to backfire in, I don't know, 10 years or 12 years. The narrative is that it's a jihad against Ukraine, in other words, against Ukrainian culture, against Ukrainians. It is a 21st century genocide, widely broadcasted all around the world. There is no way you can make peace with a terrorist, because any peace, any agreement is not going to be tolerated unless it's on their terms. So it's very binary option for us. Either we win this on the battlefield, or there's not going to be Ukraine, like, per se.
What are your plans, and does that include relocating at some point, or will you be staying in Ukraine?
I took a decision to stay in Ukraine, and I'm not going anywhere because, again, I'm fortunate to be able to leave the country in some instances when I need to attend critical or important events that would open up doors for more donations, for more support, as we have that level of trust with military and with the government. I'm not planning to leave. If I wanted to leave, I would leave on a lot of different occasions, before or during the war. I'm not planning to leave. I have this really motivates me. Now, in the past few months, I'm actually trying to combine all the projects and UHF. But I think on a 3-5 year perspective, we have an idea and we have plans on creating an actual impact fund that will be not using donations, but will be actually gathering investors as LPs or GPs and actually investing into projects that have commercial interest, commercial potential, and in the same time will be changing the situation that we have here for better. So having an impact a measurable impact in place. This thing will be, I'll help to spin it off. The good thing is we already have a number of soft or maybe like hard commitments from a potential investors, which is super motivating. UHF will continue to what we do. We will be looking for solving different problems on a systematic level as soon as those problems appear to be, you know, a wide problem for everyone or for a large mass of people. And but the impact fund, I cannot say when it's going to be launched, maybe in 3 months, maybe in 6 months. And I don't know when this interview will go live. So the chronology is a bit weird here, but it's going to be a separate entity. We already have plans on partnering up with other VCs as well here, but that's going to be a separate entity where I'm probably going to be a partner, but I doubt I'll be a CEO there as well. So that's a long-term vision, is that to dig the topic of the impact deeper. And if we want to be, you know, emphasizing on how effectively we are deploying the funds, then we're crossing a border between donations and how and where we can utilize the funds and actual investments.
We're just about at time. Sasha, what message would you like to leave with viewers about Ukraine, and what's important that we all should know about that we may not be hearing enough of?
I think, I mean, I will try not to make it sound in, you know, in a very lame terms, but Ukraine is really fighting on a, you know, democracy battlefront for entire civilized world. If we fail, which is very unlikely, and I believe that's not going to happen, if Ukraine fails, then Europe's going to be next. So I understand that there is war fatigue in the entire, you know, in the entire world, because there are other conflicts. There are flood in Nigeria. There are other major problems out there, and I'm not trying to pull the, you know, all the media attention towards our problem, but I think if we're talking about, like, you know, this post World War II world setup that's being formed, where this civilized world, countries, people want to travel, do business, we live in a digitalized world. What is happening on in Ukraine cannot go under the, you know, second or third level of importance in your agenda. I think this is the most important topic that's happening right now in terms of the whole world's stability. Because I'm telling you, this, we know it. I know, unfortunately, every family in Ukraine, or most of the families in Ukraine, know or have people that suffered, dead people in their families, or we know it. We just don't know it from news. We know it from here, that this mad lunatic across the border is not going to stop. And the ambition is to destabilize the world as much as on a bigger scale as it sounds. I really urge people to support as much as they can, and also travel here. The border is open. Cities on the west, Lviv, Uzhhorod, Ivano-Frankivsk, are very far from Kiev, and you can get a taste of what's going on here. You will feel siren. You will see or hear sirens. You might go to a bomb shelter for the sake of, you know, following the procedure, of course. But you will feel how much grateful people here for any help that's coming to them. And also, if you don't want to be donating, invest. find where you could inject your funds, your money, your expertise to change things for good. I think Ukraine's military technology sector within the entire Ukraine is going to be the most, I would say, the most vivid in terms of developments for the next 5 to 10 years, for sure. Reconstruction projects, investments, comment and find ways how to work, how to partner with the Ukrainian business entity. And I really hope that the winter that is coming and the potential problems of Europeans with prices going up and the whole topic of Ukraine, the war in Ukraine becoming already, above some people's limits, is not going to be something to push people away. It's actually, this should unite people across, like what happened in Ukraine, united people, different languages, different religions, of different, I don't know, cities, regions, united people against the common enemy. So now, unfortunately, in the world, we know who is the enemy, who is the public enemy number one. And that should be, something that unites other countries and continents as well. Unfortunately, we see that for one country, for people, helping Ukrainians or helping is important. We see a lot of politics in the West, which is very demoralizing and demotivating. And unfortunately, we see that things are not as straightforward as we want them to see, with the help of West and in general, traveling to meet those people and organizations outside of Ukraine. We realize that there's a lot of obstacles and there are a lot of problems out there. But hey, again, I hope that I'm sure that we will win. The question, it's just a matter of time and the price. At what price we will be coming out of this invasion, out of this war. And well, for people that know, Ukraine is, as I mentioned, IT country, blockchain, crypto friendly. I don't know, beautiful scenery, beautiful women, very hospitable people. So come and visit. If you want a safe place, come and visit the city on the west, and you'll see it for yourself.
Sasha,
that's it from me, John. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being a guest on the show and sharing your insights and perspectives, and may you, your family, and friends continue to stay safe. If you want to learn more about United Humanitarian Front and get in touch with them, you may go to uhf.fund. That does it for today's episode of Emerging Voices and 𝐂𝐸𝐿𝐿 podcast. I'm John Lira. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Hey guys, thank you for watching and supporting independent media. Before you go, we'd really appreciate it if you would please like, subscribe, and share the video. It really helps our reach so we can keep making great content for you. Cheers.